Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Dynamics Corner, the podcast where we dive deep into all things Microsoft Dynamics. Whether you're a seasoned expert or just starting your journey into the world of Dynamics 365, this is your place to gain insights, learn new tricks, and hear from industry experts. I'm your co-host, Chris.
And this is Brad. This episode is recorded on December 20th, 2023. Chris. I got the year right. I almost didn't. I almost said 2024. But another mind-blowing episode.
It's
another
Christmas series.
Set of great guests in our Christmas series. But I learned so much about telemetry and the practical uses of telemetry and examples of use of telemetry that now I want to go back and sit down and set up some telemetry whitelists.
Real use case too, so that's very useful.
Yes, and I also enjoyed talking about Teslas. Oh wait, someone's at the door. Who's at the door, Chris? Who do we have with us today? We have to see who's knocking.
Who is it?
I don't know.
Hey.
Oh, hey. With us today, we had the opportunity to speak with Waldo and Morten Bræmer. Good afternoon. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. I'm not certain what to say, but I do have to say, I don't know if that's a real view or a fake view, but that's an amazing view.
Yeah.
Because
Thank you. It's fake.
I just noticed it was fake, but I was like, wow, I'm completely envious. And that's where I was thrown off a little bit. Is it evening? Is it morning? Is it afternoon? But I wanted your office because I'm in a brick dungeon here.
It's my apartment actually, so
Oh, very cool.
Oh, that's
not
nice.
in my country.
Oh, that's nice. Well, I'd like to thank you both for taking the time to speak with us today. I've been looking forward to this for quite some time, as I am with every episode. And I was thrown off a little bit by the view, but I'll recover now with my envy. I think I have to do the same type of thing. I'll have to come up with different backgrounds for each of these episodes to make people envious. But as I had mentioned, I was looking forward to speaking with both of you about this. Have a lot of questions for you both about the topic that we wanted to talk about, as well as some additional items, because as Chris knows, there's one thing I'm looking to purchase soon. And I heard that you had some insight on that. So we may be able to have a few moments to talk about that. But before we jump into having the conversation, like I do with each episode, I'd like to give both of you the opportunity to let everybody know who you are and a little bit about yourself and how long you've been working with the application, how long you've been in the community, and some of the great things that you do. So I think we can start with, Morten, if you would, please.
Yes. Yeah. I'm Morten, and I'm from Denmark, and I've been in this business for almost 20 years now. And I'm trying not to be a dinosaur, so I try to keep up with all the new technologies and to catch up and look into Yammer and X-Threader, etc. to ramp up and get all the new information. That's it. I live here in Aarhus, in Denmark, with my family, and I work at a partner called Waldo. So that's me.
Being a dinosaur is difficult. I know that we've all been around for quite some time, but I too myself struggle with trying to keep up, and I have to spend a lot of time. Maybe it's because I read slower, absorb slower. I'm not certain, but dinosaurs don't die. We'll be around for a long time.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah. But Waldo he did a lot of sessions about not being a dinosaur, so I tried to follow up and
I talk with everybody, and that sounds like a great topic. Maybe we'll have to branch off and have another episode to talk about how not to be a dinosaur and left behind and become extinct, which is a great topic.
Or
Maybe
get put into a museum.
Well, I think I'll reach out to both of you. We can talk about that after. I know a few other dinosaurs that I speak with that I know that you speak with as well, that maybe we can get us all together and either put ourselves into extinction or talk not how to be one. But the other person that we have with us is also, I know you've been around for a while. You probably fall into the dinosaur category. I hate to say it. But if you tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm fine being a dinosaur, so.
No,
Well,
I am too.
I'm Waldo from Belgium. Been in the Business Central community for quite a while, from 2001 even. So yeah, me explaining that makes me feel as a dinosaur for sure. It's very okay to be a dinosaur. I think the only thing is, like Morten says, like we try to keep up with stuff, right? And that's also what I try to do. And for me, community and sharing with community is also for me a way to keep up with things. Morten sometimes involves me in something that he does for his company, which challenges me a lot, which I love. Because it makes me having to be prepared, for the next big things and stuff like that. Yeah.
No, it's great. The notion of being a dinosaur, it's important. I mean, you've been working with the application for a number of years now, and I know in my travels, I talk with people about how long I've been in, and I hear I wasn't even born then, or I was just graduating high school, or I was, in elementary school. I think Chris was in 8th grade when you were starting out. So it just puts a little notion to it, but it's important. And this is one of those industries where I think the number of years that you've worked with it is not important. It's how well you know the application, because it's been changing and evolving. So it's important to keep up with it.
I always have been saying to people and myself, like in IT, experience is like poison in a way, because the more you have, the more your results will be poisoned by the experience that you have. But the thing is, IT evolves too much, right? So applying experience to whatever you do today might already be like old technology. If I would apply like 5-year or 10-year-old experience to a new interface solution, let's say, well, let's not do that. Right? So,
that is a valid point and a great way to look at it, because as you had mentioned, you could be poisoned by your expected results based upon what you know, and the results may not even be the same due to the technology. I know that we had some conversations what we wanted to speak about with today, but the first question that I have, that I know many may have, and I'm certain you may know what it is: where did the nickname Waldo come from? I'm not certain if you've been asked that before, but I just have to put that out there, because I've seen you around for a number of years, as you had mentioned, back from 2001, back when we didn't even have the communications that we have now for sharing knowledge. So I'm curious myself. Chris is, and I'm certain others are as well.
It's absolutely not a very exciting story, so I'm going to disappoint you, I guess. But whenever I tell people, like, who are you? I'm Waldo. And then I get sometimes, why? Why would you? Well, I was 12 years old, and I was playing basketball. And when I was 12, I don't know if you remember a show called Family Matters. It was,
yes, I do.
So there was a Waldo, Geraldo, Faldo. and he was a goofy guy. I am, let's say, not the most serious person always. So people started to call me like that goofy guy from that series, which was quite popular back in the days. So yeah, that's just my friends started to call me Waldo. That's it. I just kept it. Yeah, it stuck.
Well, now we know the secret is revealed. I did not know that. Chris thought he had read somewhere, or you had mentioned somewhere, where that name came from. But now I know that it's back from a television show when you were younger. I thought there was some creative, crazy story of how you wanted to share and share information with the community or, gaslight people, I guess you want to use the words, without being identified. Like, I thought we could have some good juicy story of hidden away.
Back in the days, there was like, people started to tell me like, look, you need to change back to your real name. And I was like, yeah, why? Because, and then it was back in the days where Microsoft was rewarding or awarding MVP stuff. And they don't find you. They want to give you an MVP award. They don't know who you are. And I was like, well, no, I'm Waldo. For the community, I'm Waldo. If they want to find me, they'll find me. You can just message Waldo or have a direct message Waldo, and then you can find me.
Waldo, when you are private or together with friends, do they call you Waldo as well, or is it only the community here, or?
Community and friends, yes. Only my family actually calls me my real name. it's strange.
And even your wife, when she needs you to do stuff.
No. When my wife says Waldo, I know there's a problem.
So that's the name she uses when there's a serious issue, and you come now. It's almost like your mother calling you. Like you hear a certain word or voice.
If my mother would call me Waldo, then I know. Then I'm in trouble.
Well, I'll call you Mr. Waldo for the conversation. So, no, I appreciate the story and the backstory. It is interesting, and now we all know, and everybody knows now where it came from if they had not known. But what we were talking about when we met over the past couple conversations was about something that's quite popular, and we've had conversations about, but I know this, both have some intimate involvement in, is the use of telemetry within Business Central and how telemetry can impact an implementation or development or any part of the application. So I'm looking forward to having the conversation. And Morten, when you and I were speaking, you had the funny history of telemetry that I think many may not know or many may not remember of how and where telemetry actually started. It's not something that's so new.
Yeah, I actually talked to Jens Møller and Kenny at Direction for, I think it's 5 years ago. And I asked them, how could we monitor Business Central? What pages are in use, etc. And Jens, he told me that you can just create a tracer in C# and fetch all those events. And ask him, could you show me some code or something? And then Jens Møller provided me some software, some snippets for providing this tracer. And I actually managed with a colleague to build this tracer and fetch all those telemetry. But it was not documented. There was no documentation at all. So it was, a big mess to figure out what's going on. But we managed to catch some of the telemetry and type it into application sites and with our own syntax. But then Kenny started to make it public and make a lot of documentation, and then we just we discontinued our own solution for telemetry and then started using Microsoft's telemetry version instead. So it's a long time ago we started using telemetry.
No, that's interesting. I vaguely remember hearing or seeing something about that, how you could use traces to monitor the application and how it has grown to where it is today. And it's interesting that if you don't know, but everybody thinks it's something new.
You can actually fetch a lot of telemetry which are not documented, which are not in the documentation. So if you start the tracer today, you will see a lot of stuff going on under the water, which are not anywhere in the documentation. But Microsoft can feel free to discontinue those events which are not documented.
They're not the same as telemetry, right? It's not. I mean, they are two different things, right? The trace and telemetry.
It's not. It's actually event tracer. You can start you cannot do it in the cloud because you have to get access to the service tier, but you can start it on the same server where the service tier is, and then you can fetch all those events, and then you can pipe it by yourself to application sites, which Microsoft does. But you can get a lot of undocumented information if you start the tracer, but I think right now it's not necessary because Kenny has and his team has built so much telemetry. So I think you should start there instead of building your own tracer right now. Yeah.
Absolutely, if it's involved. So when using telemetry, do you have some advice or some insight how someone can get the most use out of telemetry? I know that with telemetry, there are a lot of notifications or events or pieces or application insights, I guess you can call them, for tracing and use of the application. What would you recommend, or what would you suggest as some sort of your tips and tricks, either one of you, for using telemetry within Business Central?
Yeah, I could start with Kenny, he built a Power BI reports for monitoring the environments. So I will definitely, if you are in the cloud, start enabling telemetry and then install the Power BI report. And then you have to teach the program manager or the consultants who is responsible for the customer to look into this report, and they can get a lot of information there. But if you get stuck or you need to go a bit deeper, you have to definitely learn some Kusto before you can analyze deeper. And if you need to get some samples of telemetry of Kusto, you can just go to the BC Tech repository. There's a lot of Kusto there, and you can get a lot of cool samples from there. And you need to have some technical skills to go deeper. But first of all, I would install the Power BI report from the one Kenny he's doing, and then you get a lot of information there, and also the consultants can get a great overview of the entire solution.
So you were referencing the Power BI reports that you can install through AppSource for your Business Central environment.
Yeah, from AppSource. Yeah.
And then
the nice thing is it hooks into an endpoint from your App Insights, and it gets all the, maybe not all, but at least a lot of information already just in the blink of an eye on the report. I'm not that familiar with it, to be honest, Morten. I tend to use KQL and KQL only. Don't ask why. I have no idea, because I get lost in all the visuals. Well, I get lost in all the visuals. So
there's so much in it.
There is so much in that report, and probably people that are used to read reports like that, like Power BI and stuff, find that they will be able to read it. For me, I a little bit get lost in the visuals. I see a graph and I start to, I don't know, what is that doing and why is that going up or down, and I a little bit lost in the what was I searching for kind of thing. While I'm in KQL, I always know what I'm searching for, and that's basically trying to deep dive. And I'm a little bit of a scripting guy as well, so I like script my way through problems. Let's say.
No, there is that.
But I think the first tip I think that I would have is enable it. I mean, from the moment where we started with telemetry in the company, we didn't enable it, and we didn't have telemetry at all, and we had a problem. And then you have even more of a problem, because you need to solve a problem where you do not have data for, right? So the first step is enable it. It's easy, you only need it when there is a problem, but when you have a problem and didn't enable it, there is no data. So there's nothing to analyze at that point.
And this is the cool part of telemetry, that it's all recorded. So you can go back in time and see what's going on last Monday or between 10 and 11 o'clock in the morning. We used to collect a lot of tech guys when you have problems back in the old days. And when we didn't have time to do it. Maybe we could do it the performance investigating on Friday, and when we collect all the people, there was no problem anymore. So now we can just go back in time and look into the telemetry and find out what happened when, and that's pretty cool. Yeah.
I have come across that situation where people have not turned it on, and then they see that there's a problem and they turn it on and they say that I heard this telemetry is supposed to give us all this information and show us all these problems. But like you had mentioned, you may not have that situation again, or it may take a while for it to appear again. So enabling it is important. One question, and I think I've spoken with Kenny about this before, as well as others, that I'll ask the both of you. One of the questions that I hear the most about telemetry, or two of the questions. One, there's a lot of information to go through. How can I learn what I need to analyze to help solve a problem? And then two, there's a lot of information, and I hear and I read that it costs money for me to use telemetry, right? So these are the two barriers that I find to people wanting to use telemetry, because they don't know and don't understand. And for both of them, I myself have never received a clear answer other than, oh, you can filter, oh, you can sample, or you can reduce. Because for me, logically, maybe it goes back to the point, Waldo, that you had mentioned, my experience, maybe the poison. But if you're doing a small sample of something, you may not, in fact, get the problem that you're looking to find, because it may not be part of your sample.
Well, there is the Power BI report, right?
Yes, there is the Power BI.
It gives you all. But I always compare this telemetry with a haystack. There is a haystack, and you're not sure there are needles. So there are two types of problems. Show me the needles, and I have a needle. I just don't know where to find it. So that's two ways to approach the haystack, right? And both have their approaches, I think. Just to give you an example, just yesterday we had a problem at the customer. Like, there are some things that slow down. So we had a trace, just a profiler, and the profiler indicated that our license check, there was a license check that we do for our software that had like a very slow call, a web service call, an Azure function call. Why is that? But the thing is, that make me turn straight into telemetry, because if this one customer has a slow license check, that might be a problem for all customers. And it turned out that we had like, it's not really advertising our company, but we had like 12,000 seconds of lost time per day in license checkings. And these are all statistics that you can get out of telemetry. Now, this was a needle that we had to find in the haystack, which was pretty easy to find when you are used to like searching these kind of things. So in this case, for instance, I would go into the slow running queries, slow learning AL methods, because it was an AL method that was slow, right? So that's actually just 5 lines of KQL, and you had an overview of basically every single customer that had a problem, which were a lot.
Well, it's good that you found it. You were able to find it, hopefully quickly. But that is still, it sounds like you use the KQL to find the needle in the haystack to identify slow performing queries or slow performing AL calls. What else could you get with telemetry? So it sounds like with telemetry, we can find performance related issues.
We also find performance issues with the KQL directly instead of the Power BI reports. So, the consultants have the overview with the Power BI report, but when we need to find performance issues, we definitely use the KQL directly to find the problems. Yeah.
So when you're working with the KQL, it's a scripting language similar to, in my opinion, it's almost like writing a SQL query, right? With just a different syntax versus your typical T-SQL language. Do you use it primarily performance issues, or what are some other areas that you have found that telemetry has been useful outside of performance?
Also, if you have web services which are not performing or which have a lot of errors, incoming, outgoing web services could be hard to debug, and you can just look it up into the telemetry and see what's going on. That saves me a lot of time.
Yes, when customers report errors, like we have a lot of errors, but what? And then you start to analyze what are the most kind of errors that we had at a certain customers. These kind of things. Usage. For instance, a very stupid thing. I wondered which company names we have for each customers, in the sense of how many test companies do we have per in a live environment at customer sites? Because in my opinion, that's bad practice. And we turned out that is a very easy analysis once again, because you have all that telemetry. You have telemetry, any kind of telemetry, let's say on company name basis. So we just basically query any kind of event with a company name in it per tenant, and you kind of have an overview of all companies per tenant, so, and you have an overview what kind of test companies we have in live environments. Again, bad practice.
That is a bad practice. I've seen too many of those.
Yeah. It's a practice. So
I've heard you talk about the test companies in the production environment. The biggest reason I hear for that is they're afraid that the sandbox will go away. If you recall back, early on with the sandbox or the refresh of the sandbox and extensions being removed because, implementers, I guess, either from the customer or the partner point of view, didn't understand the difference between the PTE, the dev, and the global extensions as they are installed in a sandbox. So they solved it by putting the test company into the production environment. It's funny if you hear some of the stories of how they go. So you've talked about the performance issues that you're able to help identify, and some usage issues, as you had mentioned, or usage of the application, not necessarily issues in those cases, which are important. How do you manage the data? I keep going back to the volume of data that's logged and the potential cost or the amount of data that you have to go through to either identify an issue or some usage scenarios. And with all of the codes, there's a lot of codes that you can use that are being tracked with telemetry. And I see, again, keeping up, trying to not become an extinct dinosaur, that they're adding some regularly. And how do you keep up with it? And how do you manage the volume of data that you have to minimize the costs?
Do you have an overview of the cost, Morten? Can you say?
Yes, we do have. We have we divide our customers into different workspaces, and each workspace have a setup of data collection rules. So we have a whitelist for events, which should be catches in those workspaces. So we have a basic one which only fits a few events, and then we have the standard, and then we have the one with no limitation on, and it could cost a lot of money if we don't take care of it. So we have some alerting on it if it goes too high, and then we put all the all the normal customers into the standard workspace, and we only fetch. We have a whitelist of event IDs which we collect. We don't do sampling because with sampling it's we have sometimes we have wrong answers if we have some performance issues, etc. Because it's only fits some of the events. So instead we just decided which events to collect.
Okay, so you have data collection rules.
Data collection rules for the workspace, and then we put different custom into different workspaces. Yeah, and then we have one application inside the account for each customer, because we have free space for each customer. I can't remember how much it is, but there's some free gigabytes each month for each customer, so we don't pay for the first.
I think it's 5 gigabytes per month.
Yeah, so the first 5 gigabytes we don't pay for that, but but then we have the issue we can't compare together with all the customers. Of course, we can join. I think we can join 40 accounts in one custom query, so we can compare 40 customers in one custom query. But that's it, and it's more difficult if. I know, Waldo, you put all in together in one account.
Yeah, I have a different approach. So for me,
and then you pay a lot of money for it. Yeah.
Well, that's I recalculated that it's about, what was it again? I'm not gonna lie, about 25 euros per month per custom, which seems fine. But I must say, at some point there was one customer. Now listen carefully.
I'm listening.
There was one customer. There was one customer that created a report in Jet Reports. Yeah, based on the value entry, a value entry with 8 million records. So that report, or the generation of that report, had to be done daily. So they used this jet engine, whatever that's called, so to generate it daily. Which cost 8 million queries to telemetry, which kind of made that only that one customer generating a cost for close to 1,000 euros per month.
Wow.
Yeah.
One report.
I actually had the same experience with a code unit. One developer said that this code unit should run to hell for while true forever, and then it was calling a web service, and it cost also a lot of money.
Wow. Yeah. There are some events that are easily to there is one event is the authorization successfully. So everything that authorizes in Business Central gets an event in telemetry, and I'm like, man, that's one that I ignore.
Yeah. So that's also we make this white list of events we should fetch instead of just fetching all of it. Yeah.
So we do it the other way around. We do a blacklist.
Okay. So when Kenny add new events, we don't get them before we put them into the whitelist. Yeah.
So it's two different strategies here.
So there's
it's two very different strategies actually.
It is. It's Morten. You have segmented your customers into workspace groups.
Well, in my opinion, there's no wrong way. The only wrong way is no way. So as long as you're tracking telemetry, you're going strong, let's say.
No, I see. And it's interesting with your two separate strategies for tracking it. Morten has separate workspaces for different customers where he has filtered.
Yes. I was actually playing around with the user ID today. I had some questions for a consultant who needed to dig into the telemetry and find the different user IDs, but we don't have the user ID in telemetry. But I actually came up with a solution today, so I can share it with you if you want to see.
Absolutely. I'm always interested in learning and sharing new information, because that's what I understood from telemetry. It was supposed to be anonymous.
Yeah, it is. And definitely here in Europe, we have, it must be.
So what you're going to share is illegal, right?
Yeah. Before and after.
Is it? Well, I don't know if it's illegal here. So is it still illegal? I don't know. I don't know the rules.
This podcast is being listened to all over. So.
Well, you do as you do, right?
You can't hear.
I mean, whoever is tracking gets the data and is obliged to, needs to comply with the rules.
Correct. It's not the telling someone how to do it. It's the person doing the act, right? Or something like that. And we're learning here how to do it so that we know what not to do.
Exactly that.
So that's good. So I'm happy to hear about
there you go.
For sharing your screen, but I am happy to hear that you can filter out as well as hear some metrics on what the cost is for this, because here I've had several conversations, and for some reason, and I don't understand, they say, oh, you only have 5 gigabytes, so we're not using it. Instead of trying to figure out how to use it or to work with it, or even they say, well, then it becomes too costly. And it's one of those things, I talk about automated testing, for example, quite a bit. And everyone tells me they don't have time. It takes too much. It costs too much, but they don't factor in the cost of what it would take if you don't use it, right? So the amount of time that it would take you to solve a problem or to find an issue. And then it's why didn't we have it? We're spending all this time and money to get it done. So thank you for sharing those stats. And so what you have on the screen here is you have your...
Yeah, it's, when you go into the Custo queries and you're not able to get the user ID. And sometimes it's quite complex if you don't have the user ID. If you go into the user in Business Central, I'll just share my screen here.
Yeah, so in Business Central, they're on the user card.
There's a telemetry ID here, and that's the only thing you can look up into telemetry. So it's pretty hard to find the relation to the user. Mm. So what I did is that
the thing is, it's fine to share an ID that doesn't hold secret information, right? So the ID is fine. Yeah. And to be able to map that ID with the username, you need access to the database. So that's basically makes it okay to share the ID.
Yeah. So you can just, if you're a user, you can just, get a new random ID so they can't trace you anymore, or you can just disable it. But I just publish this user card as a web service. You can look it up here. User card. Yeah. I
have a feeling what you're going to do.
You just publish this, and then you can get the OData endpoint, and then you can go into Postman. And if it's in the cloud, of course, you have to set up OAuth, etc. But then you can get the user telemetry ID and the user ID. And then you have a JSON file here. You can just save the JSON file and upload to. I will recommend to upload to blob storage, but right now I'll just upload it into GitHub to make it easy. So I have all the user IDs and the telemetry ID in a safe place, and then you go into the Custo, and if I have a script here where we can see what's going on into the system here, but we only have the user ID and we don't know which user it is. So it's quite complex to see. This is just what's going on into the system. It's just people with all the users here and what's going on into the system. It's quite complex to see what's going on. But if we switch over to this one here.
Now you have a username.
Then we have the username here. I just have an external data access to my JSON with all the users. And then I can join the telemetry ID with the user ID. And then we have the user ID here, the username from Business Central here. And I can see what's going on. This is just a sample, but you can do this with all the Custo queries. Join it with the telemetry ID, and then you have the name instead. So it's when you have to look something up, what's going on, or if you have some performance issue or some logging issues, it's much easier to see the data with the username included. And you can, of course, save this file as safe place. So in a blob storage where you have a SAS token, etc. So it's
Well, it's all a matter. I think it's still quite legal if we look at the legal aspect of it, as long as you keep that file safe, right? I mean,
you keep
the only way
safe,
for you to generate that file is when you have access to that data. So,
yeah. So that's just
smart.
because I was really tired of not having the username provided in the telemetry. So and if you go into the source code here,
So now we can create some gamification.
It has on-premise scope, the user property. So we couldn't get access to it, and we could not export it by AL code. So we need to publish as a web service and then get it from there. So
that is a unique and interesting way to match the user ID to the telemetry user ID for analysis of determining.
And you can use it, for whatever you want in the cluster.
And we could also use it for usage, so you could see if somebody's actually working all day long or not, if they're just sitting on one page, not typing or doing anything.
What are they doing?
Did you really test that? Did you really ship or enter those orders? That's great. Thank you.
Gamification. What is the user with the lowest percentage of errors? In a month, and that's basically employee of the month.
Then you could see the number of sales orders entered, or something like that. You could see. Like you said, you could make a nice game out of it, and then you could do some awards at the end. I
was just tired of looking up those telemetry ideas to figure out when we have logging issues. We need to figure out what's going on, and it was much easier to provide the username directly.
Thank you for sharing that, and I'm happy that you shared it on the screen so anybody watching can see the query that you had created. And maybe be able to model something that, like you said, I'm not going to vouch for the legality of anything because I don't know, but these are tools that we're finding.
It's a great use case.
With telemetry, there's a lot of data. What is the retention on this data? What is the possible? You talk about 5 gigabytes per month. It's another question that I often get asked when working with Business Central users. When I say users, it could be technical or customer. How long is that telemetry data available for? Should I purge that telemetry data? And is there anything I can do to offload it so it doesn't take up so much space in Azure and still be able to have access to it? What are your thoughts on that?
I think Morten probably knows better, but I think it's 90 days by default. Maybe you can set it up. I never checked it out.
You can save it for 2 years if you want to, but it will cost you a lot of money. But I think
it's
default
90
is
days, right?
90 days default.
So there's a default 90-day retention policy which you have control over.
So if you want to monitor feature telemetry, then I will recommend you to save it for instance, a half a year or even more, because you need to figure out what kind of features they are using. But if you only want to use it for troubleshooting or performance issues, you could put it to only 1 month, because that should be enough.
That's true, but that brings us to the next caveat, I guess, because you can only set one endpoint, right? And so you cannot set up a purpose for telemetry. So the purpose is always everything,
And that's also the reason why we put it into, we spread it into each one account for each customer, so we can.
So you get the benefits of the free storage that's available. It's 5 gig.
And then we can keep it for half a year if we need to monitor something special for one customer. Yeah. If you need to monitor are there some kind of features that they don't use anymore, so we can delete it, or we don't have to upgrade those features. we could monitor that as well if we save it for a half a year or 1 year.
No, that's excellent. There's so many uses that you could have with that. Can you offload it to another external system to maybe reduce the cost of the storage, or is it just not worth it? Is the cost that inconsequential?
I haven't tried it by myself, but you can export it to data lake or whatever you want to.
With its cheaper storage.
It's
cheaper
just
storage,
a database, right?
Yeah.
Long term, yeah.
No, that's in the usage. I have talked with others as well with it. I'm by no means a telemetry expert, but I know enough to be dangerous with it and write some queries here and there. But to your point with the usage, it's usage not only what I've seen with some partners do for implementation. It's not for usage for feature removal. It's for, I guess, training opportunities or other opportunities to educate or work with customers to learn other areas of the Business Central application that they can use to help make their business efficient and maybe get more out of it versus just some basic, sales order entry or pick any piece of it. So there is some benefit to it. That the whole cost and storage thing, I'll have to do some experimentation myself and hopefully not end up getting a thousands of dollar bill at the end of a given month because it's tracking everything. So your recommendation is to filter out the authorization. I think, Waldo, you had mentioned early on. Are there any others that you think are just noise that take up a lot of space?
It depends. It's really on the user and the customer. So that's one of the things I track. It's usage. So what is the usage? What are all the events and the amount of events that we have per event per day, and we basically track that every single day. And if we see a spike, then we try to analyze why there is a spike. So that's how we tracked also this one customer that created a report kind of thing. But it really depends. But this authorization is one that keeps on coming back. Authorization is successful.
Okay, so it does it. So it's just depending upon your implementation, what you want to track and how you want to use it.
Yeah.
There are many events available for you to filter from. It's interesting. The telemetry.
I think there are like 2,200 events just in code base. Wow. I'm not talking platform, so that's a lot.
That is a lot of events, and to even
you definitely need to add some data collection rules before you start collecting all the data, because it could cost a lot of money here. And also, there's a lot of events for each job queue when it stops, etc. Yeah. And each scheduled task will also provide some telemetry, etc. So there's a lot of stuff going on. So I will definitely go with the whitelist. So it won't cost you a lot of money. Yeah.
If you want to share your whitelist, I'll take it.
Yeah, I will.
I'll take anything.
There was, I think it was Thomas Capitan who shared his data collection rules, and they were quite evolved, I must say. I don't have the URL. I would share it, but I think it was his blog post that shared quite a significant data collection rule that contained.
I'll have to look that up.
Still need to check that out.
Yes, I'll look that up. And Morten, if you don't mind sharing yours, I'd be interested to see what you have for a list to share that all. I think it's interesting.
Mine is very simple, just 3 events.
And then now spend all the money, put it all in one place.
We pay the money, apparently.
Well, maybe if you look at Morten's list, you can filter it out a little bit more. And do the blacklist for more than 3, and maybe save yourself a couple of euros each month, so that you can. I heard that you like to purchase Teslas, so maybe you can buy another Tesla.
Not anymore.
Well, that's where everybody has me convinced that I need to purchase a Tesla, and I was looking at some of the other options and some of the other vehicals. And it all comes down to Tesla.
Don't get me started.
I'm not trying to get you started.
Trigger. You got trigger.
It's just, I do see some of the information that you share, and I thought at one point you were a big fan of Tesla, and then all of a sudden
I turned around to it.
Yeah. Why did you turn around?
I'm still a fan. I mean, I'm still a fan. Absolutely. They electrified, let's say, road transport. And I've driven a Tesla for 9 years, and 7 years in a Model S, 2 years in a Model Y, and I probably, that's my mistake, the Model Y part. That's all. I came.
We were looking for Model Y. So now I'm curious, like what happened? I'm gonna change my mind.
The Y first, before you jump into it, I am curious to hear it. I looked at the S, the 3. The 3, I don't like the way it looks. The 3 Highlander I would like to see, but that's not available here in the United States yet, so I'd have to wait. And then everyone's saying, well, get the Y, because the Y has the better look. It has more space. It's a bubble, but I don't like the way that it looks either. So I'm leaning towards an S would be the model that I would like. Unless the 3 Highlander has something, but I'm curious, why did you go from an S to a Y, and then why, and
why the Y,
why the Y, and why not the Y?
Well, okay. So why did I switch to the Model Y is twofold. First of all, my knees getting in a Y is easier than getting into an S. And second is my sons. They were getting big, and in the Model S they were a little bit cramped. While in the Y there was a lot of space in the back seats, and that's why a Y was interesting. The less interesting part, and I'm talking Europe. And by the way, I have discussions with European people as well, not agreeing with me. So. I mean, this is just my opinion, and it's not absolutely not, maybe not to take too much serious. But the comfort is far less. Maybe it's already better these days with the new version or the German version of the Y. But I had the Chinese version where the suspension was too stiff. The seats are. I compare it with 2 planks, and that's it. I mean, there is not a lot of comfort. The software is horrendous. I mean, they all claim like autopilot is the thing, but in Europe, where there is still a lot of rules, well, I don't think in the States. The States is looser. I think it works better in the States. But in Europe, we have a lot of rules, like you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be like passing on the right. That makes that software, that the Tesla software doesn't work in Europe, in my opinion, right? So in the meantime, I switched to a Mercedes, and the software is much better, which I don't believe is for me, it's legislation. That makes more sense for a German car to be driving in Europe than an American car driving in Europe with different legislation. So there's things like if there is a traffic jam, right? So we can drive 50 kilometers an hour in 2 lanes. In Belgium, at least I think it's in Europe, it's not allowed to pass on the right lane, except in a traffic jam. So you basically just like go where there is room to go. What the software will do, when the left lane will stop, the car will stop in the right lane as well, which is a dangerous situation.
Yes.
I mean, you just follow the traffic, the car will just stop. And I mean, I've had a few incidents, not hitting, but almost like, "Hey, what are you doing?" and stuff like that.
So Chris, I don't know how that evaluates into the Y that you'll never get, because I know you will never get that. And then Waldo, maybe the Cybertruck is something that would interest you, and
not even closely.
You stick with the Mercedes
If ever again a Tesla, I would look into Model S. I was very happy with the Model S. Every time I drove it, it put a smile on me. No complaints except for the software, which basically was the same in the S, obviously. I hope that will improve. I had a promise from Elon Musk for 8 years that we would have full self-driving, which is still not there, right? I heard they now fully converted to vision for parking sensors, vision for opening the doors of the Model X, vision for simply everything. Vision for rain sensors. I can tell you it doesn't work. Rain sensors do not make any sense. In a sunny day and you drive under a tree where there is shade, it will go like and it thinks it's raining.
Waldo, be careful, because next time you'll come here to Denmark and to Aarhus, you will look at the parking place and think approx 40-50% of all the cars are Teslas here in Denmark. So be careful what you're saying. So it's going crazy in Denmark. Everyone is driving a Tesla because
I'm not a Tesla hater. Absolutely not. But I didn't have. Well, maybe I was just sick of it. I don't know.
Well, maybe it's from going from the S to the Y, because the S is a more advanced model. You mentioned the comfort than the Y, so maybe if I use the technical terms all the time, maybe you downgraded a version and therefore you became dissatisfied with it. Morten, do you have a Tesla?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I have a Volkswagen, but if it breaks down, I will definitely buy a Tesla next time. Yeah.
On your next one. All right.
But I live close to my office here, so I can go by bike.
Oh, bicycle is the best way to go.
So that's why you buy a Tesla, right? Because you don't have to drive it.
Leave it in the parking lot.
I don't need it.
Would you have an electric bicycle?
No. I love riding my bike, and also I do have a road bike, and I enjoy getting a lot of training in the mountains during the summertime. No,
a bicycle is great. I wonder sometimes. I understand the concept. I'm not going to get into the whole electric bicycle, but sometimes that's what I say. It's like the whole purpose to me of a bicycle is to move and to get a little exercise. If I wanted a movement, I'd get a motorcycle or a scooter or something else that is intended to move. Where a bicycle, I just would pedal. So that's good.
Yeah, get some fresh air in the morning before you get to start working.
No, I think it's great. And then you can unwind on the way home. You exert a little energy from sitting all day, and you can feel good. But I would like to thank you both for taking the time to speak with us today. Actually, I do have one question for both of you. I got distracted for a moment. We are in the holiday season at the time of this recording. I know this will be around forever. We did release a podcast recently where we talked about our wish list for the holidays for Business Central. Right, so we have a couple recordings to release, and we started releasing them now, where we asked guests amongst ourselves if anyone wants to hear my wish list or Chris's wish list. They'll have to listen to a previous episode. But if you could tell me one of your big wishes that you would hope that Santa Microsoft would put on the Business Central tree for the holiday for you, what would it be? Morten, do you have one? Mr. Waldo, we'll hear yours after. I can tell by your facial expression you have a good one. So we'll close out with that.
No, I was not prepared at all. So.
well, we put Morten on the spot to go first, and you have a moment to think about it. But with your face, I thought it was going to be a big one. So now the suspense is there for you. So you have to think hard. Morten, what about you? Do you have a big wish for Santa Microsoft for adding to the application of Business Central, either from the development environment, because I understand you work with development, as well as from the functional use of it?
Yeah, I think in the development environment, I just think they should invent new objects, for APIs. Instead of using the pages for APIs, they should invent new objects to make it more object-oriented, instead of just trying to add new properties for existing objects. Yeah,
that's a good one.
That could be one of my wishes.
With the big increase of API use and connectivity through systems, having an object
the APIs, it's quite complex to make an API. If you're a beginner, you have to add a lot of properties, and why should you add all those properties? Why not just make a API object for the purpose? Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah. Okay, so hopefully maybe you can make a...
That's an easy one for Microsoft to provide.
Yeah, hope so. It sounds easy, and maybe throw a BC idea up there for that, and everybody would upvote it, or maybe we can leave some cookies and milk out for Santa, Microsoft Santa, and they could bring something. Yeah, I like that one. I do like that one. Mr. Waldo, sir, how about yourself? Here you go. You've had a lot of time to think about it. If we talked about the Teslas and why we don't like about the Teslas. Now, what is the one wish that you would have for Microsoft Santa or Santa Microsoft?
To be honest, I got what I wanted already. I just hope that it will turn out to be the improvement that we think, and that is the improvement on locks, right? This tri-state locking. I expect a lot of goodies out of that. Still, I didn't really have the chance to get that into production. The stable releases were that stable. So 23.1 is actually not that stable either. So let's hope that 23.2 is stable. But I really, that is a big one, absolutely a big one. The other one is it's the read isolation part where we can really put in or let's say handle locking in our own business logic. So that's already, but that's already, that's under the tree. So if I would now think of a new one, is the page scripting part. I don't know if you ever heard about it or saw it. It was demonstrated a few times, I think in Directions and in Tech Days, where you're able to script your way through pages and then save that script to be able to run that again later on. Kind of like page testability, but the ability for users to do that. So now just imagine every single upgrade, every single month, users will be able to test your new version with Business Central's version by just press play and running their tests.
Yes, I did see that. I was not at the conference, but I did see that. And that does sound exciting because I am a fan of testability and testing, not only from the test automation point of view, but the performance test. And when I saw that, that's what I thought of, is where the users will be able to define their scenarios, and determine which tests that they're going to use, which I think would be a great way for them to be able to ensure that their business processes don't break, in essence, the application.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
And that's what I'm looking forward to. I know Microsoft is looking into it. It's on the agenda. So,
well, it should be there.
Maybe next Christmas.
Well, you never know. We're
maybe
still
earlier.
We're still before
well, you
the
got
holidays.
your early Christmas.
Well, he had that last.
Maybe earlier because it's done. It's finished. It's in the working state. Only. Is it workable enough, and does it meet all expectations? That's basically what needs to be answered. And for me, I'm like, whatever it is, release it.
I think they can release it, like as you, and I think let users work with it, even if you throw it in as an insider build first, because I think I've seen within the community many ask for that. So I'm sure a number of us will use it, because if we're writing our tests as it is, we'll transition over to being able to record those ourselves and run those tests and be able to give them the feedback. Because with the application, with everything they're adding and changing, you see, as you mentioned, I think there's a big contest every time to see how long it will be before the stable release is released, before it's pulled back and put on hold and then released again. So they'll never be able to get it until you start releasing some of the stuff out to use. So hopefully we still have a few more days until the tree has its presence. So maybe it will be there. Chris and I did go through our list, and we'll just promote everybody to listen to that. You can hear some of the things that we were wishing for Business Central. But again, thank you both for your time. I appreciate it. I know you're both very busy. And your time is valuable, and we both appreciate greatly for you taking your time to speak with us and take that out of your busy day. So thank you very much. Happy holidays.
It's my pleasure.
And I look forward to talking with you soon. And don't be surprised if I don't follow up with an email to you soon about how not to be a dinosaur. we'll have to pull the community to get a couple of the dinosaurs together, and that will be our episode. So hopefully sometime in the first quarter of next year, we can get on to get a panel together and talk about that. But again, thank you very much.
And let me know how good a Tesla actually is. Okay.
By that point, I probably will be able to tell you about that. So, but thank you for your insights on that as well. All right. Thank you very much. Happy holidays. And talk with you soon. Ciao, ciao.
Yeah, happy holidays. See you.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you. Bye. Ciao.
Thank you, Chris, for your time for another episode of In the Dynamics Corner Chair. And thank you to our guests for participating.
Thank you, Brad, for your time. It is a wonderful episode of Dynamics Corner Chair. I would also like to thank our guests for joining us. Thank you for all of our listeners tuning in as well. You can find Brad at developerlife.com. That is DVLPRLIFE.com. And you can interact with them via Twitter, DVLPRLIFE. You can also find me at matalino.io, matalino.io. And my Twitter handle is matalino16. And you can see those links down below in the show notes. Again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, and take care.